Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mindset Alchemy podcast, which you know from the intro anyway. And it is my privilege today to introduce you to Julie Mann, all the way from England. Welcome, Julie. I'm so glad you could make it today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. And hello, everybody, whoever it is we're talking to.
Yes, people across the world. It's wonderful. Yeah. Julie, please can you introduce yourself to all these beautiful people listening and watching?
Sure. So my name's Julie Mann, and I really help people to live their best life. I do that in terms of helping them with their habits. I think, if you change your habits, you can change your life. And also I help people to age well with cutting edge products in a nutshell.
That's beautiful. Yes, because ageism is a real thing today, and aging gets taken as a bad thing rather than a thing to be taken gracefully, I feel. Julie, what led you along the path of habits? What got you there?
Okay, well, I have been an actor for over 40 years, so that's something I still do alongside my other businesses. And I spent most of my life really, Janine, being happier playing someone else than being myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess over the years, I've had some habits a lot of habits that haven't really served me: drinking too much, smoking 30 cigarettes a day, being in relationships that didn't serve me, not eating to nourish my body. So I got into all sorts of patterning, and it wasn't until quite late in my life, really, probably sort of 40s to 50s, that I realized that I absolutely needed to do something about it. And it was around the time that I had my daughter, because I didn't really want to pass on those habits to her. So that's when I kind of, I went and did the Landmark Forum, actually. I don't know if you've heard of the Landmark Forum.
I've heard of it, but please could you explain for the audience?
So it's basically a course which is all about having a conversation in what it is to be human. And it was in that conversation that I got to see some of the things that I was doing and how really it didn't serve me. I mean, on the one hand, it was pretty obvious, but actually for me to understand that was quite a breakthrough. And for me to see also that I really wasn't the person that I thought that I was. And I think that, in any moment we can recreate ourselves, can't we? Because even in the time that we spend on this podcast, we're not the same person that arrived on the call as we are when we leave the call. And that's partly because, our cells are dying, new cells are being born. So literally we aren't physically the same person, but actually often, hearing something new in a different way can have us choose to do things differently in the next moment.
That has been my experience. I always say to people, I love what you said, because I always say to my clients, you don't finish the day the person you started it. And if you feel you did, go back and evaluate your day again.
Yeah, I think it's very easy to kind of, we wake up and we think, we reach for our phone maybe to remind ourselves of who we are, and then we become the person that we think we are, but actually we aren't actually any of that. And I guess until I discovered that I had a say and any power in my life, I didn't really understand any of the things that I'm talking about. In fact, maybe there'll be some people listening thinking, what on earth? But yeah, for me, it was a long journey, and I don't regret any of my past. Why would I? Looking back, there are things that I could have done differently. But now having a say in how my life goes really makes a difference, because, every day stuff happens, doesn't it? Stuff happens in life,
Yes.
Things that perhaps we don't like, and it's who are we going to be about those challenges. And I think that's what's so exciting, actually, because we always have a choice, even if we think we don't. You might not like the choices we've got, but we always have a choice.
People forget that they always have a choice. The people say, I had no choice. Yes, you did. You
Yeah.
always have a choice. In fact, and this is something I've learned, we all have 17 seconds to either react or to respond. And sometimes we are oblivious of the consequences, and therefore we feel we have no choices, or we dislike the consequences. So we feel we're being forced to make another choice. Would you say that your daughter was the only catalyst that helped you get into a more creative and expansive space? Or was there other stuff?
No, I think there's usually always other stuff, isn't there? I think maybe just realizing that as I was getting older, my life was not going to change for the better. I carry on doing what I was doing. Yeah, I think often it's difficult because it's usually not one thing, is it? Because there's so much happening in life. But yeah, when I was smoking, I got to the point where I couldn't laugh without coughing, and I thought, no, it's time for a change. And I didn't like the way I was feeling. If I was drinking, if I'd drunk too much the night before, it just didn't feel good. It didn't set me up for the next day.
That is actually very intriguing that you say that, because one of my things is I prepare for my day the night before. Yes, I prepare on the morning, but I like to know the night before, what am I doing? What's my timing? Who am I seeing? I normally do it on a Sunday for the entire week, and then I confirm it the night before. So that's very interesting that you realized you were setting yourself up for an interesting day the next day. When you look back at your career, apart from the smoking and the drinking, what do you feel you've brought forward that absolutely empowers the people whose lives you touch currently?
I think that, as I mentioned earlier, I always thought that I should be someone else. When I was playing someone else, they always seemed to be, so much, inverted commas, better than I thought I was. And actually, what I came to realize was the best part I could ever play was me. And what I've really learned is that being me is what makes me happy. Being true to who I am, listening to myself, taking care of myself, and being aligned to the kind of core values that I have is really, really important. And that's what has my life work. And I think mostly that's what people want, to be accepted for who they are. And but if we don't accept who we are, then it doesn't matter what other people say around us. It's not going to feel good. So I think it was that realization that actually, I was all right. You know what? I was okay. I was actually, there was really nothing wrong, apart from me saying that there was something wrong. And
that's beautiful. Yeah. Yes. You said something very interesting there, that there was nothing wrong. And this is something I've seen over and over. People say, help me, fix me. There's nothing wrong with the me you are. It's just moving into the me you can be, who you feel you are. And it's not that I feel people don't know who they are. They've suppressed so many parts of themselves. When you look back, who have you reclaimed that now supports you the most within you?
That's a very good question. I think I've claimed my difference. So we're all different, aren't we? And I think when I was younger, I just wanted to fit in. I think that's something that can happen when we're younger. We want to be part of some tribe, and rather than, as we get older, looking for a tribe perhaps that we feel we belong to, sometimes we stick with the old tribe, which actually is not really aligned with who we are, and it doesn't make us happy. But there's I think there can be a lot of perceived pressure to be a certain way, and this illusion of being perfect is just of course it doesn't exist.
You made a very interesting point there, Julie, about fitting in, because formerly, if we didn't fit in, we got put out the camp, and the saber-toothed tiger or wherever we were could come and chomp us to bits. So it was in people's better interest to fit in. Rebels were not seen with very good eyes. In fact, a jaundiced view is a good way of putting it. So,
yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and I think that actually, when we become, I know we don't have to do that now because none of us are fighting saber-toothed tigers, but I think that to some extent we still do that when we meet someone for the first time. When someone walks in a room, we form an opinion, and I think that's out of just to keep ourselves safe. We need to know what we're dealing with. So I think that's a kind of instinctual thing. But what I like to do is when I notice those judgments, because actually we never know somebody until we get to know someone properly. And we all have different aspects of ourselves, and sometimes some days we might be more proud of ourselves than we are the next day. So first appearances can be deceiving, I think, but I think we do that thing. We make an instant judgment to see if we're safe, and then we kind of proceed from there. But I think it's really, really useful to suspend that judgment. I don't know if I've gone completely off at a tangent.
Oh, no, I love that. I think that's beautiful. So where did habits come into this for you as you evolved, as you grew, as you expanded? What was the importance of habits for you?
Well, I think that habits make up our day. They make up, and the kind of habits we have. Some people like to say we have good habits and we have bad habits, but actually I don't like to do that, because habits are habits. I think some habits serve us and some habits don't serve us. And I think good and bad is not a great way of looking at anything, because we can just beat ourselves up if we think we've got bad habits. But because habits are at the root of everything, and I guess I realized that what I saw as bad habits were my smoking and drinking and, being in relationships that didn't really serve me. And my eating behavior. Sounds a lot, doesn't it? I realized they weren't serving me. And at the time I did see them as bad habits, but that was really how come I became aware of habits. And then I realized that, even thinking, we get into a habit of thinking in a certain way, and our thinking becomes our thoughts become our feelings, and then our feelings dictate what kind of action we take or inaction, and that results in the kind of personality we have and the sort of behavior that we exhibit. And it's really down to the habit of thinking in a certain way. So I think if we choose to think differently in a way that serves us ultimately differently, then that's a great habit to have.
It really is, because one of the courses I run is called Thinking by Design, because we sometimes just go with the unconscious all the time, and we forget that, guess what, we do have control over our lives by controlling our thoughts, our habits, and our actions, and using that 17 seconds. Julie, if you could leave our audience with just one absolute nugget, what would that be?
Well, the one that springs to mind is, and it's not something I've said, it actually comes from The Secret, and that's thoughts become things. So yeah. And I think really just find a way to be at home with who you are. Yeah. I mean, there are so many things but I think it's little things though, isn't it? Little things that make a difference.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We could talk for hours on this, and I think I definitely have to invite you back, because personas become a habit and they applicable in different situations. So that is just a very important nugget. Julie, thank you so much for joining us today. I so appreciate you. People, I will put where you can find Julie on social media and everywhere in the show notes. And make sure to reach out, follow her, and learn how shifting your habits through shifting your thoughts and your feelings shift your life Have a beautiful day, and thank you again, Julie.
Thank you for having me, Janine. Bye, everyone.